Well, the Supreme Court's out here being the Supreme Court again. The Supreme Court, specifically the conservatives, of course, are allowing Texas to keep their gerrymandered maps that could potentially give the GOP 5 more seats in the House. And of course, it was for some stupid reason that they claimed that the people against these maps were arbitrarily claiming that the Republicans were being racist. The hilarious part, of course, is that Ken Paxton here cheered the Supreme Court's ruling, saying that it reflects the political climate of the state and is a massive win for Texas and every conservative who is tired of watching the left try to upend the political system with bogus lawsuits. You think it reflects the political climate of Texas? According to primary voting statistics going back several years, registered Democrats far outnumber those of Republicans in Texas. The only reason Texas keeps going red is because they have gerrymandered the fuck out of it. So no, those maps do not represent the political climate of Texas. Once again, despite being horrible legislators and not knowing how to run the country, the Republicans are so desperate to hold on to their seats because they know they're going to get their asses kicked in the midterms that now they're just trying to cheat because they don't know how else to win. When really they should probably just start listening to people and stop being fascist dickbags. Unfortunately, in the era of Trump, you can't tell if the conservatives on the Supreme Court from day to day are going to do the right thing or just blatantly defy the Constitution for their fascist overlords.
So Tim Pool says that if the GOP loses the midterms, it's Candace Owens' fault. Solely her fault because she's asking questions and pointing out corruption. It couldn't be the actual corruption. Never. If the GOP loses in the midterms, it is 100% their own fault. They did this to themselves. They are currently doing this to themselves. And I personally will still vote red because, in my opinion, the other option is much worse. But I didn't need Candace Owens to tell me that the GOP is corrupt and doesn't have the interests of American people at heart. If the GOP really wants to win in the midterms, they've got to start looking at what the actual American people really want and try to get those things done. They've got to try to do something about the cost of living here, housing, healthcare, food, goods and services. They gotta stop acting like liberals anytime someone disagrees with something or questions anything. You know, the name calling, telling people they're not MAGA, basically throwing them out. You're literally acting like liberals. We've gotta stop sending money to other countries, Israel included. We need to get our entire government and most of our influencers out of the chokehold that Israel has on them. We need corrupt people to be held accountable, and we need transparency. There's a lot more. I could go on and on and on and on. None of this has anything to do with Candace Owens. So I really hope the GOP wins in the midterms. As much as they've been pissing me off, I don't like the other option at all. But if they lose, it is no fault but their own. The GOP needs to stop pointing fingers at other people and do what the American people voted for. That's how you win in the midterms.
Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, brings me more joy than seeing the fucking wimps and pathetic losers in the GOP in Congress realize that they hitched their wagon to a man who doesn't care if they live or fucking die. So obviously we all saw Marjorie Taylor Greene is retiring early. She's sick and tired. She was called a traitor by Trump. She was thrown under the bus because you can't dissent in the GOP. And I guess that didn't click to people until recently that they don't care about your opinion. One GOP congressman anonymously, because they're all fucking cowards, told a reporter that the White House legislative team has treated all of the members in the GOP in Congress like shit. Mike Johnson lets it happen. They don't even allow little wins like announcing small grants or responding from agencies. Not even the high profile, the regular rank and file random members are more upset than ever. Members know they are going into the minority after the midterm. More explosive early resignations are coming. It's a tinderbox. Morale has never been lower. I believe this is what we call schadenfreude. So far, 23 House Republicans are retiring or seeking another office. This is a classic example of this. I never thought leopards would eat my face, sobs woman who voted for the leopards eating people's face party. I think about this tweet a lot. These people deserve every bit of humiliation because you let the most narcissistic man take over your party and the country, and now you're upset and shocked that he doesn't give a fuck about you or your policy opinions or your goals and only views you as a rubber stamp on whatever crazy fucking idea he has the next day or the sociopaths around him have. I mean, give me a motherfucking break. Give me a break. I hope that you live the rest of your life in complete shame. And I hope that history remembers you as nothing but a fascist enabler who accomplished nothing positive except for got your balls cut off by a complete con man in orange goddamn makeup. Like, that's your legacy, you fucking losers.
Indiana Republican Senator Greg Walker just delivered one of the most blistering takedowns of Donald Trump you'll hear. From a GOP official, Walker says he refused Trump's personal invitation to the Oval Office, not because he was busy, but because accepting it would violate the Hatch Act. And then he went further, publicly accusing Trump's staff of illegally trying to influence Indiana elections on the taxpayers' dime. Walker told reporters, that individual works for me. He works for you. He's on our payroll. And he's campaigning on company time. That is a violation of the Hatch Act. He didn't stop there. He asked questions every American should be asking right now. Why is the President of the United States spending his valuable time trying to pressure a state senator about redistricting instead of handling the actual responsibilities of the executive branch? This is what Trump fears. Republicans that will stop bowing, stop obeying, and start calling out the illegal political pressure that he's been applying for years. And once one person stands up, others will find the courage to follow. Trump's grip on the GOP isn't cracking, it's splintering. And if you ask me, it's long overdue. Share your thoughts in the comment section and follow me for more.
So an interesting story happened in the news yesterday morning. Jonathan Martin from Politico made an appearance on MSNBC's Morning Joe, and he said that he had spoken with a former GOP insider who can actually pinpoint when Republicans will turn on Donald Trump. Now, right now, the GOP members of Congress, they have to stick with Donald Trump. They have to defend his insanity and his falling asleep in cabinet meetings and his falling asleep at press events and his insane racist rants that he goes on and his just flat out fucking incompetence. But it's going to be different when the primaries kick in, because those who have primary opponents are going to have to make a very, very serious choice. Do I stick with Donald Trump? Do I keep defending his policies? Or do I do a 180 and say, no, what the president has done is wrong? It's a little different for the people who don't have primaries, because they can just flat out say, yeah, no, Donald Trump was wrong, and don't vote for this Democrat over here who's going to make a lot of good points like, I voted for everything Donald Trump wanted. No, I've changed my mind. I don't like Donald Trump anymore. No, we're not going to do that. So, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting thing to see. We're already starting to see a rift in the Republican Party anyway. Most recently, Elise Stefanik has openly and very brutally criticized Speaker Mike Johnson and is now kind of going into the Marjorie Taylor Greene camp. There's a lot of reports that Republicans that are currently sitting in Congress are going to resign or retire by the end of this year or maybe early next year, thus forcing a lot of special elections. There might even be some Republicans who said, okay, enough of this shit. Johnson sucks. He's terrible at this job, and it's time to get him out. And they might call for a floor vote to have the speaker removed and replaced. Any one of these scenarios could happen. And I hope the Democrats are paying attention, even though one of the videos I posted yesterday stated, we're tired of the infighting. If you've got infighting in one party, the other party really does need to capitalize on it. So I'm kind of excited about the midterms, which is something I never get excited about because they're usually pretty boring. But this time around, I think it's going to be an interesting show, and we'll see just how many Republicans regrow their spines. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Hit the like, follow, and share button. If you like this video, please share it. You can follow me on my Instagram and TikTok at Frankly Speaking 1975. Feel free to leave a comment. I take them all, good, bad, and ugly. I do like the ugly ones because that means I get to debate and argue with people, and something I actually very much enjoy doing. Anyway, remember to vote. Remember to exercise your right to freedom of speech before you lose it.
His speakership has been imperiled for quite some time, and what's been underreported has really been this internecine warfare going on inside the Republican Party over this last year over the fact that the House has basically neutered itself. It is completely impotent. It hasn't really been able to do anything other than Trump's big, ugly betrayal bill this year. Other than that, a lot of members of Congress know that they're facing a tough midterm election, would like to get them legislation passed so they can go back to their constituents and brag about it. But that hasn't happened. We've seen a record number of discharge petitions to circumvent Mike Johnson because he has not managed the House well. That's really his primary job. It's not his primary job to be Trump's sycophant. It's to run the House. So I find it very interesting that it's the women who are the ones making the most noise about this because they know that it's going to be very difficult for them going back to their districts as Republicans to justify and defend this administration's record, particularly when it comes to women. They've attacked women in the Department of Education, going after professional degrees. Pete Hegseth and his record with women and what he's doing at the Department of Defense, denigrating women's service. You look at what's happening at the Department of Homeland, Department of HHS with Robert Kennedy Jr. and what they're doing with women's health care. You look at the agenda of Project 2025 and how that is a war on women. You look at people who are in positions of power in this administration who denigrate women constantly. And so women members of Congress are looking at themselves, realizing that they're actually second-class citizens, the way in which they're being treated in today's Republican Party, and they've had enough.
In a shocking twist that nobody saw coming, Republican women are starting to realize that Republican men aren't going to give them leadership positions in the government. Yes, Elise Stefanik, Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Anna Paulina Luna have all recently made comments about how they are not respected by their Republican colleagues. Who would have thunk it? Apparently there are even more women who are upset by this in the Republican Party, but those are the only ones that are on the record so far. And they put a lot of the blame for this on Speaker Mike Johnson. Elise Stefanik has gone so far as to say that Mike Johnson will not get reelected as Speaker in the next session because of how badly he's treated Republican women. And it's quite frankly just so shocking to me that the party that, elected a guy who is in the Epstein files and who literally said he could grab women by the is somehow not a party that supports women in leadership. Shocking. I know, right?
So if you saw this news and you were like, those motherfuckers, I get you, right? But it was almost kind of expected. It's not like this Supreme Court was going to bend and suddenly have some kind of morals in this regard when it came to House district seats. But there are things you should know, right? And this is something that kind of went under the radar earlier, but I'm going to bring it back up to you so you feel a little bit better about this. The Supreme Court just said that the 5 seats that Texas lawmakers just kind of created to help them win seats per Trump's order can stand and can be used. Shortly after that, some people started to wonder if that might have been a mistake. And when elections were held back in November, they realized it probably was. 3 of the 5 districts started to rely on gains that Trump had made in 2024 with Latino voters, where he picked up a lot of Latino voters in comparison to historic trends. So a year later, in 2025, he has lost all of those gains, if not more. 70% of the Hispanic population disagree with him as far as immigration and the economy. I believe there was a shift of 30 to 38 points back to the left in the recent elections in November of 2025. And 3 of the 5 districts were, again, created relying on those Hispanic voters to get them over the hump and to get 5 GOP seats. So as he's alienating, all, as he's saying, hey, I want 5 more seats, and they create seats that rely on Hispanic voters. But he's doing all of these things like arresting people, assaulting people in the streets, the Supreme Court passing laws that you can arrest and stop people just because of the way they look, aka brown or black. That is not going over well. And so he has lost all that support, where even a bunch of it was probably just because his name was on there. And his name's not on any more elections, regardless of what he says or Steve Bannon says. So think about this situation. Trump says, create me 5 more maps so I can keep the Congress in 2026. And then they create the maps, and it's like dummy mandering or something like that. There's some term for it where you just fuck it up when you draw the maps. And then we go into 2026 and the Democrats actually gain a seat because 3 of the 5 flip left, especially with everything that's going on with the economy and the way that he's handling immigration and allowing people to just arrest and stop and arrest people because they're brown or black. So think about that. That'd be pretty apro fucking po. And I would be here for it. So when you hear this thing about the Texas Supreme Court, just be aware of that it may not be all doom and gloom. Yes, you can crap on the Supreme Court because they're making decisions based on admittedly racial decisions, which that's what we get because we've got the Supreme Court. So as we continue to elect Democrats and these Supreme Court justices, just perish or resign, if we have Democrats in charge of the government, we can fix that and go even harder and fix things and make things better for all of us. So I know it was doom and gloom. I got that vibe too. I never expected it to really stand, to be honest, because of the way the Supreme Court is. But I felt good at first that, maybe it wasn't going to, but maybe it's better than we think. Okay. And according to data, it might be. All right. Thanks.
I need someone to explain the Republican strategy to me like I'm 5, because they've lost in almost every election in 2025. They're wildly unpopular in every poll, from immigration to the economy to how they're handling war. Their own party members are jumping ship, refusing to run for re-election. Nancy Mace is now reportedly following Marjorie Taylor Greene out the door and considering an early retirement. And their response to the electoral catastrophe is to double down. They're now threatening to take away SNAP from blue states. They're threatening to punish Americans for how they voted. And it leaves me wondering, who does this appeal to? In the middle of a holiday season, when people are already struggling to pay their bills and put food on the table and maybe get a single gift for their kid, the Republican plan is to make it worse and to do it deliberately. It really is a special kind of cruel and spectacularly a very stupid political calculation. We all know the ultimate goal is Project 2025. It has been their blueprint for permanent power, but the bridge to get there is supposed to be by winning elections. And for everything they've done to rig the elections in their favor, they're setting that bridge on fire with themselves on it. Because even with all of their attempted cheating and redistricting, Democrats are sweeping a majority of the elections. So what's their play? Do they think most people are so into cruelty that this will overcome their profound unpopularity? Do they believe their own gaslighting propaganda so deeply that they think struggling families are going to thank them for taking their food assistance away? I know this is the flailing attempt of a burning cult, one that knows it's headed off a cliff in the next election cycle. So my guess is they're trying to inflict as much pain as possible on their way out. But if they're so worried about elections, then maybe stop doing the things that are guaranteed to make everyone fucking hate you. It's really not that complicated, but they won't, because this is who they are now. They're not a party dedicated to governance, but to grief. They're not dedicated to helping people, only to hurting them. During this holiday season, while they're scheming to take away food from children and elderly and disabled people, I want you to remember who they are and the choices they made, because they have chosen to become the party of cruelty. That is their brand, and we need to let them own it and eventually hold them all accountable for it. So what do you think? Does this strategy make any sense to you? Sound off below. Like, comment, share, and follow me for more.
Republicans are lying about the war on drugs. The billions, hundreds of billions of dollars actually, that they're pumping into scooping up innocent people with dark skin and shipping them out of here. The billions of dollars bombing little boats in Venezuela. Drug deaths have gone up this year compared to last year. Yeah, they didn't even stay the same. They went up 9% increase in the western region of the United States, 3% increase in the southern region, 3% in the Midwest, and 1% in the Northeast region of the United States. Things are supposed to get better. We're spending all this money, we're breaking up families, we're traumatizing people, we're killing people, and yet more people in 2025 have died of fentanyl and other drug overdoses compared to last year. What the hell is up? People need to realize that mental health care, drug treatment programs, those all cost money. And the Trump administration has cut funding to so many social programs that helped people fight their addictions. They cut those programs. So that could be the reason that there's increased deaths. But certainly there are hundreds of billions of dollars that they're spending in all these for-profit prisons, all the Republican donor base opened up and are profiting off of. Haven't helped us a bit. I'm having a bonfire if you guys want to join me. I thought we could burn through more money than the Republicans are doing. It's a lot easier, and we can get to know each other.